Hello friends, it's TSP again, back with another video. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is sleep. So today we're going to go over the 4 things that you are doing that is destroying your sleep. So we'll start with number 4, exercise. And you're probably saying, what? I've heard my entire life that exercise is good for me and that it's good for my sleep. So I'm not saying that exercise isn't good for you. I'm not saying that exercise isn't good for your sleep. But what I am saying is that you have to be very careful about how you're using exercise, especially if you're someone who is having problems when it comes to your sleep. So one of the things that we do know about exercise and sleep is that exercise increases your core body temperature. But TSP, what does that have to do with falling asleep? Well, if we think about this from an evolutionary biological perspective, we know that before we had these fine homes that we could stay in and we had a lot of control over the ambient temperature of the environment, humans lived in the wilderness, they lived in caves, they lived in dwellings that didn't have as much regulation of the temperature. And one of the signals to our bodies that it's time to fall asleep or go to sleep is the dropping of the ambient temperature of the environment around us. And so our bodies tend to mirror that. So when it gets cooler outside, our bodies actually do decrease in temperature when it's time to fall asleep. So when it comes to exercise, if we are exercising too close to the time that it is that we are desired to go to sleep, well, our body's going to have a significantly harder time achieving that sleep. And I hear this a lot. So people say that, I wasn't tired, I wasn't sleepy, so I went for a run to hopefully tire myself out and eventually be able to get to sleep. Well, that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do, because we don't want to do something such as cardiovascular exercise to increase our core body temperature, and ultimately that will stave off our ability to fall asleep to some extent. So some of the things we can do to help with this are to make sure that we don't exercise within that 4 to 6 hour time before we go to bed. And if your schedule is such that, well, this is the only time that I can exercise, the only time I can go is after work, and that is within that time frame. If you are having sleep problems, there are a couple things that you can do to try to help with this. So one of those things is that you can take a cold shower or a cool bath. So again, we don't want to be taking anything hot to increase our body's temperature, but we want to cool that temperature down, allow our body to have its natural process of mirroring that ambient environment and having a successful achievement of sleep. Right? So now let's move on to number 3, alcohol use. Now you're like, again, TSP, I know for a fact that alcohol helps people fall asleep if you are of legal age. But one of the things that people don't realize is that alcohol, as a psychoactive drug, does have what we call a rebound effect. So after alcohol goes through our system and is worked through, after the pharmacodynamics occur and alcohol is processed fully, our body doesn't just go back to its normal level of arousal. So we know that alcohol is a depressant. We all know this, right? That's part of the reason why it makes people drowsy, makes people sleepy. But what happens is, after the direct effects of alcohol work off, we have this rebound effect and it increases our arousal. So it's like a rubber band. It goes down, but then it goes up, and it goes up way higher than it was before our natural arousal state. And so what that means is that, one, if you are able to fall asleep, which there's a good chance you maybe were able to fall asleep, it's going to bring you out of the stage of sleep into a lighter stage of sleep than you were previously. And so it might pull you from a deeper sleep to a lighter sleep. It might pull you from a lighter sleep to wakefulness, and you may just have periodic awakenings throughout the night. So be careful about the timing of your alcohol, because the research shows that even one standard drink of alcohol taken right before we go to bed can have a significant impact on sleep and sleep architecture. So now let's move on to number 2, television. So we know that the vast majority of American households have a television. And one of the things that's really important when it comes to television is that light is a critically important aspect of sleep-wake cycle. Light is what entrains our brain and our body to know that it's time to be awake. So the sun, the yellow sun that we have, is the main time indicator for us. That's the thing that historically or evolutionarily have let our brains and let our bodies know that it's time to be awake, that we should be awake when the sun is up. Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that the light emitted from things like our television, our computer screens, even our cell phones, is a blue light. So if we look at the light spectrum, we see that blue light is actually more intense than the yellow light of the sun. Ultimately, what this means is that that blue light from our TVs, from our computer screens, from our cell phones even, is a much stronger entrainer of our sleep-wake cycle than even the sun is. So what happens ultimately is that light goes in through our eyes, it goes back into our brain, and it crisscrosses into the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a little bundle of nerves inside of our hypothalamus. Inside that suprachiasmatic nucleus, there are photoneurons, photosensitive neurons, and these neurons are essentially part of what's responsible for telling our body and our brain that we are supposed to be awake or it's time to go to sleep. So what we want to do is make sure that we are not exposing ourselves to this very intense blue light directly before we're going to bed, because it is essentially telling our body and our brain that we should be awake. So be careful about the utilization of your electronics right before you go to bed. So I would recommend at least making an hour of a break between the time that you stop watching television, and that you decide to go to bed. So if that is something that you are a person who, well, I need this ambient noise, or I need a TV to help me fall asleep, find some other ways to create white noise in your room so that you don't have that television, because that's another issue in and of itself. And last, the final and most important one, because this is one that is extremely widespread and rampant, is the use of caffeine. We all know that caffeine is a stimulant, and as a stimulant, caffeine increases our body's physiological arousal. So one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that caffeine has what we call a half-life. And essentially, that caffeine half-life means that it takes several hours for just half of the amount of caffeine that you consume to get out of your system. So caffeine's half-life is about 4 to 6 hours in the average person, which means that is 4 to 6 hours for just half of the caffeine that you consume to get out of your system. So if we take, say, a standard cup of coffee, 8 ounces, has between 80 to 100 milligrams of caffeine in it. And let's go with 100. So the average person probably has a caffeine half-life of their body of about 5 hours. So in 5 hours, they will still have 50 milligrams of caffeine in their system, which is more than enough to disrupt their sleep significantly. So what we want to do is make sure that when we're trying to go to bed, we don't have a significant amount of caffeine in our system so that it will not disrupt our body's propensity for sleep. So what I recommend for people is that you try to keep your caffeine use at least about 10 hours away from the time that you're going to bed. This will help your body to work through the caffeine and not have a significant disruption of your body's natural sleep cycle. Well, I hope this video has helped you in some way, and hopefully we can make your tomorrow better than today. This is TSB signing out.